So welcome everybody, Diana Hunter here. Warm welcome to those of you who have joined our call live and to those of you who watch later on the replay. Today we're going to take a focus on the many health narratives that are out there today, have a closer look at them and shine the light on what actually works. You know, we were having a chat this week about the rising cost of living that we're all facing and how it's leading people to re-look at the priorities in their budget. It's certainly doing that for me. So what is the payoff of prioritizing your health within your budget, and what might be the best place to focus and the best choices to make in terms of maintaining your health for the long term? So to that end, it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome our guest speaker this morning, Sharon Whiteman. Sharon's been working in the fields of health and wellness for more than 30 years, and she was a triple certificate critical care nurse for nearly 20 years and has been with Manatech learning and teaching about wellness since 1998. Sharon is an avid student of personal development and has facilitated group personal development workshops for women for more than 25 years. She hosts this weekly educational forum for Manatech Australasia and says it is a privilege to partner with Manatech because of the science and their world-leading unique and effective technologies. Sharon has a passionate, engaging and knowledgeable style, and if you've ever joined us before for the Saturday call, you know how true that is. And in this call, we'll focus on asking you to reconsider actually the traditional advice for being healthy and what we really need to do to become and stay well. There's never been a more important time to learn discernment in our health choices. So thank you, Sharon. I'll hand over to you. I'll go off camera, but I'll be right here.
God bless you, Dana. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's here now or in the future. I'll just share my screen. Just forgive me. Make sure I share the right one. So Dan, if you can pop off and make sure that we can see this, just unmute for a sec. Let me know.
Yes, thanks, Sharon. It's all good.
Okay, perfect. So as I was saying just in a couple of seconds ago, I'm very passionate about this topic. It's because of my lived experience, because of how my journey started in healthcare and life. I'm going to give you maybe a little bit more than you bargained for. My intention is as I said, to be about 20, 30 minutes so that it's not belaboring people and just give the bottom line of information. So I hope that my story will plant a seed and make a difference for someone out there. I'm not here to expect you to agree with me or believe everything I've said. But I am here to invite you to question and discern everything, every decision about your healthcare and your well-being, whether that's in partnership with a practitioner or whether you're making your own decisions or a combination of the both. Really, there's been no more obvious time and no more important time for us to become an active partner in our healthcare and wellness choices. So my story started, I was sick at birth. I was a primip breech, which means that I was my mom's first baby and I came out backwards. And it wasn't a good experience for her. And in the end, it wasn't a good experience for me either. But the point for today, that what's relevant for today, is that I started my life sick. Within my first 4 weeks of life, I had a systemic infection. They thought it was staph infection at that time. I have no idea. I was covered head to toe in boils. And my mom used to tell me that it took one little face washer to do hot compresses on my whole body. That's how tiny I was. I started my first probably 6 years of life on antibiotics, and it was didn't solve the problem, and they developed a vaccine for me. So we can all imagine. I'm sure that was in the 50s. Sorry to say, I'm going to have to change how many years I've done things. I think I've been in wellness since I was 17, which is 50 years almost. But we'll leave it at 30. That sounds better. It makes me younger, doesn't it? But anyway, back to they made a vaccine, and what could possibly go wrong when you're fiddling around with the immune system? And while it's in the 50s, as I said, I don't think it was probably as nasty as some of the vaccines that we've been exposed to since then, but I'm sure it didn't help the rest of my story. So I gradually recovered from that. I always had things go wrong. I didn't seem to have a healthy functioning immune system. I ended up in hospital after a cat bite in my teens. And then after I graduated from nursing, I went into nursing at 17, and my first job, I developed an autoimmune disease called uveitis, which is an autoimmune disease of the eye. And to point of my journey, I was one of the worst cases that they'd seen. I ended up on 60 milligrams of prednisone a day. I just about lost my sight. I had to have prednisone eye drops as well as oral, and that was every hour. And sometimes through the night, they'd let me do it every 2 hours. So I'd set an alarm. So 24/7, that went on and off, burning and smoldering for 10 years. So I was on steroids for more than 10 years of my 20s and into my 30s. And that's when I immigrated to Australia by accident. Actually, I came here traveling from Canada, wanted to take a year off, and I was going to go back and change careers and become a psychologist. And I ended up staying, and I've been here 37 years now. So, you can see some of the highlights of the problems in that story. I went on in my 30s here to develop another autoimmune disease of my thyroid. But by then I'd started to wake up to medicine. I started to question. I at the end of my career in nursing, I was an ICU nurse in emergency and open heart and coronary angioplasty. I started to question things. I started to have this uneasy feeling of not agreeing with what I was seeing, some of the decisions being made, the loss of autonomy for patients. And so I started to question and wanted to change careers. And that brought me into personal development. It brought me into natural medicine. And I started learning about supplements and including supplements for my health alongside my doctor's advice. So fast forward again, I was about, I can't remember the exact age I was, but I think I've been with Banatech for 26 years. So at that time, I had worked in Sydney and in open heart theaters and then in a chronic fatigue clinic. And I learned that I had chronic fatigue. I was somebody, as you can imagine from my history, I just was sick from day dot. So I just kept going. And I don't think I really knew what a feeling of well-being was. But with my last nursing job, my second last, I was in open heart theater. And I was an anesthetic sister working alongside the anesthetist and the cardiothoracic surgeons. And I was exposed to a lot of anesthetic gas and chemicals. And I think that was the thing, and a big mold exposure in a little terrace I lived in Randwick. I think those two things tipped things over the edge, and I ended up in full-blown chronic fatigue and needing to take time off work. And I moved to Queensland. That's when I met some people, some spiritual friends of mine, and they introduced me to Manatic, which is a company that I'm going to introduce you later. It's not the purpose of my talk, but it is a high purpose in my story. And that was a turnaround for me. At first, I was completely skeptical. I just looked at them, I thought, anyway, I was so closed to network marketing. I didn't understand it. I had a close, even though my mind had been open, as you can tell from my story, this was one thing I was not open to, I can tell you. But these people, God bless them, I'm still friends with them. They said, just have a listen to this. If it makes sense, great. If not, there's no harm done. And when I listened to that, it was a cassette tape in my car all those many years ago. And when I listened to it, I thought, why would I reject this without exploring? It was a bit of a wake-up call for me that I had been so suspicious that I didn't even accept education. And that I got goosebumps saying that. That changed my life, that I realized I was so close to something that could potentially change my life. The thing that stood out to me most was the part where our cells are the foundation of good health of the whole body. And if my cells don't have all the nourishment, then how could I have a hope in being healthy? Didn't matter what Western medicine or natural medicine I threw at it. If my cells weren't fully nourished and capable of functioning optimally, I'm not going to be a whole, healthy person. And that made sense to me. And then the other thing that was clued in is that the decline of nutrition in our food source and in the foods that were bombarded with in marketing and in our supermarkets. And you seriously need a PhD now to understand what's good for you, and they hide the things that are bad for us. So it's like you also need to be an investigative detective to really to have a good diet these days. So that's the bottom line of this for me, and that's what opened to me. And then, that was 20 some years ago. I've continued to be a student, constant student, always investigating, always researching all of my choices. I went on after that story to fully recover from my chronic fatigue. I went from being, I couldn't do walking mostly. I probably was only awake a couple 4-hour times in a day. I was just sleeping constantly. I started on the nanotechnology, and in a stair-step fashion over the next 18 months, I returned to full, I knew I was improving by about my family could see in 6 weeks. I could feel it in 3 months. And then it was sort of a stair-step rise to complete health. I was back to power walking, which is all I really wanted to do as far as exercise. I'm not an athlete, but just having great walks. And then as I unfortunately in 2002 got bit by a tick on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. And at that time I had no idea of the potential impact of that. I felt really sick. I had an immediate flu. I had this big circular rash on my arm, and I had this impending feeling of doom, like fear, dread, doom. And I got up and I researched, tick bites. And unfortunately, I only saw an entomology site. They called that rash as a bullseye rash. It sometimes happens after ticks. It's rarely fatal. And I just didn't think anything of it. I didn't research further. And then I declined into full disability again, no matter what I threw at it. Now, go on, fast forward, I'll tell you that I'm now a president of a national charity of the Lyme Disease Association of Australia. So I have a lot more knowledge about Lyme and what I could have done then. And I also can compare myself to others. And I know that even while I was on the Manatech glyconutrients that I got sick, my story is just a percentage of the people I'm helping now in that charity. Without those nutrients at my cell level, I don't think I'd be here today. And I do credit them for still being alive, to be honest, even though it was a big journey for me. So let's take a look at some of the things that we're faced with. I've alluded to the marketing for food. Really, we've had in our upbringing, I'm going to tell you my upbringing, and I see this generally when I'm talking to people. I ate a good diet when I was young. It was, 50s, 60s, 70s. It was mostly fruits and veg. I had a pretty average income family, so we didn't eat out a lot and we didn't get fast food. If we look at the world today and raising families, it's a nightmare. Like, I don't even like taking my teens into a shop because, they just don't believe me. These things are so colorful and shiny and they sell so well, don't they? Look at all this stuff. And even the advice of what to avoid, that's sort of a natural healthcare message on the top left, it's broad, it's overwhelming, and reading, I know there's apps now that you can read some labels, but it's like, you have to be sort of an expert navigator to even try and get a bit of wellness into your diet. And especially if with people with teenagers, I don't know if I'm the only one that can't control mine, but I do my best now just to add to their diet, and I do my best to keep healthy options, but sometimes I don't fail in having every meal healthy, I can tell you. The other thing is, and I don't know if it's true for anybody else, but my education was just keep going until you get too sick to cope. So you can hear through the very ebbs and flows of my health over 50 years that I pushed through a lot. And that was how I was educated. That was how I was brought up. That's what medicine would advise. And if you go with niggly little things, they do your blood tests and they say, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. And I now know, because of all these years of investigating and doing my own review and my own personal health experiences, that those subtle things are warning signs, and that there's other ways to get tested that are outside the mainstream medicine situation where you can get support and coaching and advice and guidance and actual treatment. The modern medicine of today, it's now my opinion, is there for emergencies only when the horse is bolted and you do need a doctor, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can also tell you that healthcare policy globally, and Australia is not missing out, is very corrupt, and they're not your friends. And I know firsthand that doctors are not allowed to do what they think is right for patients any longer. They're dictated to. And I think if we look over the last 4 years, we can see where that's been brought to the fore, and that it's now very obvious for many people that health policy needs to be re-examined, and you need to have discernment in your participation of health policy. And sometimes the doctors don't have a choice. I mean, their only choice is to quit or to go legal, really, right now. But you need to really discern, and I will continue with that. But even so, bottom line is food's questionable, and we need to learn about it.
Sharon,
the next thing, yes,
Sharon, sorry to interrupt. Have you progressed the slides, because we can't see if you have?
I just progressed one now. I was just had the food education slide. Now this is, or the bad food. Now this is a different.
No, we can't
food
see them. They're not
education.
progressing on screen.
Okay, that's not good.
Just a technical difficulty, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just sort that out. Be patient with us.
So I might escape full screen.
There, now we can.
And what do you see? Just the
health system problems now. Yep.
Yeah. So I was here. So this is the one that you missed. I apologized. In we just were talking. I imagine you didn't see this from what Dinah just said. I will just try to increase this a little bit. Sorry, Dinah?
It's clear now.
Yeah, I'll just make it a little bigger for you because it's not full screen now.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. So I apologize for that technical difficulty. And Dinah, thanks for jumping in, because I would never have known. Just widen this again. So where I was saying, so you've heard now with this, the slides have caught up. I will re-record this for use to upload later as a separate thing, but we'll continue for today. So you can see here that we're bombarded by false education in food. The other thing that we're bombarded with is health advice. So if you're starting to wake up to eating naturally, or adding more nutrition to your food, or taking, your own personal control into your health system, there's a balanced diet, there's carnivore diets, there's, what's that called? Intermittent fasting, there's vegan, there's vegetarian, and everybody will be proponents for what's best for everybody. I think that what I'd like to say is that we need to be discerning in this area as well, and that not one diet is right for every metabolism, every genetic makeup, and that we need to be discerning and learn as we go. I don't know. I can't actually figure out what's the perfect diet, to be honest. I focus on probably the top one and minimize carbs and processed foods. That's what I do. But I don't actually know if it's the right thing for my body and my metabolism. That's kind of been in the too hard basket, to be honest. And I think that I'm not alone in that. The other thing is, in our medical system, I've alluded to my journey, but we're trained to be helpless. We've educated that they're the experts and we go to them, and we're lucky to have their time. And you may hear a hint of sarcasm in there. And, if you've ever questioned some advice from a doctor or a health professional, you'll probably have the same feeling as me, like they don't know everything. It's possible for them to know everything. And that healthcare needs to evolve to being back to a partnership with both parties, that we need to have a voice, that we need to be able to question. We need to be able to study for ourselves and bring that back to the doctor and have them not be defensive or aggressive or worse. I've had, doctors walk out. I actually had a doctor kick me out because I questioned and wanted to ask questions. And that's not healthcare. That's a dictatorship. And they're educated that way. I think our health system is broken. I think in the next 18 months, we'll be seeing a big reset, which might be shocking, but I think on the other side, we'll have healthcare that each and every one of us deserve. There's some points there, and you can evaluate them from your own perspective and your own experience. So my call to action is for you to invest in your health. Invest to know that you do have power, you do have rights, that you can educate yourself, you can make mistakes and correct, and you can do a stair-step journey, you can do a little or a lot. But I invite you to dive in and to understand the basics, the foundations of wellness, which you can see on those post-it notes, adding more. If your first step in making changes, if you've only ever listened to your doctor in absolute faith and have done what they've said and on a full pharmaceutical regime, and this is all brand new to you, start in that bottom right corner and adding more of those into your life. That's the first step for well-being. We need to have balance, fitness, habits, prevention, diet. Those are cornerstones of good health. Again, baby steps. If this is brand new to you, just add a little bit of one of those categories in every day. Coaching for diet, which is so true, that we need to be discerning on where we invest, right? So being proactive in natural health is expensive. It is a cost. It's not covered. Our toxic solutions are mostly covered with Medicare and our healthcare system, but our natural solutions or integrative solutions are expensive. That if you've got a specialist integrative doctor, it's about $500 to $1,000 just for one visit. If you got just a basic, like a general, not basic, not diminishing them, but just general all-rounder integrative physician who are highly knowledgeable, it's usually $300, $350 for an appointment, and that's not available to everybody. But going to the doctor, that healthcare cost is rising as well. So sometimes we need to be discerning and make really strong decisions about where we invest. Where can we pull out of something that's not essential and put it into a natural approach or an integrative approach to your health and well-being, and might assist you to the next step in fully thriving in your life. I coach you that it is possible to change habits. I have about 5 planets in Taurus. So I stick with things. Once I commit, I commit. But it's also a bit tricky to change. And you can do it. So, we have choices. I did millions of years, it feels like, in personal development to overcome and know that I have choice and have power. Those foundations in being a victim of things comes typically, now I'm getting an unstable internet connection. Apologies. The world's trying to get me. Being a victim is usually an experience from history, and it's something that you can overcome. You can be, these right-hand ones are the most important message. Be an active learner. Become a citizen researcher. Become preventative in your approach, not waiting, because when the horse is bolted, then we need to throw everything at it. An integrative approach is common sense. It's just smart. There's really good things out of nature that we need to bring back in everyday healthcare. And go to your appointments expecting collaboration, and shop around if you're not getting collaboration there. I'm in a situation where you have a disease that's disrespected and denied in this country, doctors are deregistered for helping you with, tick-borne diseases. I think I have a PhD in having trouble in doctors' offices over the last since 2002, so over 20 years. And one strategy I used, which I don't recommend, was that I'd just go to if I needed just the average thing, and a letter or appointment or a blood checkup or just a health checkup, which I've avoided for years, but I'm not recommending that. I'd go to one of those big multi-centers. I'd just go to a different doctor every time, refused to build relationship with them, didn't do anything. And then one day I had this one that was a new doctor in that multi-doctor center, and she fought for herself. She let little hints out. Like I can remember sitting there frozen, thinking, this is too good to be true. This woman is not stupid. Anyway, long story short, she's now my GP. I have total partnership with her. We go back and forth as equals in discussing, I don't ever ask her to violate, to do anything that might bring APRA down on her, but I'm working behind the scenes to get rid of APRA so that all doctors will have the freedom to make the right choices for their patients. Now, I did bring up, this conspiracy theorist is a buzzword these days. It's also a gaslighting, and it's a term that can be used to gaslight people who are trying to research for themselves and understand deeply. You might get that in this journey of trying to find a doctor. You might be called that conspiracy theorist. Trust your research, be discerning, go step by step, and go forth and prosper. Oops. So if some or any of this has made sense to you, just think about you. Spend some time to reflect and go back, learn what's happened, analyze. Would you make the same choice or a different one? Draw a line in the sand, and you can do this every day. You can do it once a month. You have another realization. There's another issue that I can see for myself that I need to draw a line in the sand in. And the next month, there's another one. I can change that. So work with yourself. You can do this, and it is possible. So when we're going back to the main topic of this is all of us staying healthy, everything starts at the cell level. So healthy cells equal healthy tissues, healthy organs, and healthy organ systems. And that's what makes a healthy you. So this re-education, if you're about to start on it and you see that this is something you commit to for yourself, learn the foundation stones of health, which are nutrition, movement, mindset, rest, and there's probably some more. Choose a preventative healthcare approach. That's the equivalent of self-care. It is the only way to be a fully healthy person. There is a difference between a genetic expression and genetics. Not everything you have to put up with. So there's some things in me genetically obviously, or something that's caused an immune suppression issue my whole 60-some years. So they never been able to understand why my things were worst case scenario. But do you think the nutrients I've got have impacted that positively? Has it left me in the worst case scenario where I have been? Absolutely not. I've used, and in this case, glyconutrients to absolutely give my immune system back some force and some fighting force in this world. The other thing is that your cells are always being replaced. So you can make new, healthier cells by changing habits. You can build on your health cell by cell. And that's the importance of adding to your diet, because nutrition is no longer enough. Take personal responsibility for your well-being. And it's time for us divorced trained helplessness. We've been trained, you're innocent. That's how we've been educated in this healthcare system. But it's time to commit to ending that. It's like going out as a warrior into the world as a new person, and it's okay to make mistakes because you can just redirect and correct. So my advice to you is there's a plethora. There's never been more of a time where there's so many supplements on market and so many choices to make. And I have cupboards full of choices. Manitech is not my only choice, but it is my foundational choice for my cellular health. I do have Manipul, Nutriveris, and Abratos every single day. And that is my foundation, and I'll never stay. That's non-negotiable for me. And I invite you to research and make that decision yourself. A little bit about Manitech to validate why I feel so strongly about it. That's a picture above of where they manufacture the Ace Mannan from aloe vera. And it's the world's best. You won't find anything better. There's no other product to compete with it. There's no other company more committed to the integrity of this product. You can research, your research will prove, you'll see gaslighting, so you have to be very prepared to see negative things. And I hope everybody in the last 4 years has woken up that negative things usually mean something you should take a really close look at, because they're screaming and having tantrums in the newspaper or in the healthcare system. I think that's a red flag that you better research it for yourself. And we have faced some of that in the history of Manitech. We are the pioneer in glyconutrition. We are the purest form and the most potent Ace Mannan in the world. And get this, those things help with cell-to-cell communication. That's the foundation for your recovery, your turnaround to well-being. We have an exclusive agreement with Costa Rican grower, and they're looking to make sure they're not dependent on one grower. So they're thinking ahead for all of us. 25 years proven safety and efficacy. It's not just something that's new on the block. This country has history. It has history because there's going to be some scars in there when you look back, right? But it's a thriving important company for our world going forward. And like I said, there's been multiple attempts to suppress this technology, which should be waving that red flag for you after the 4 years. We're starting to wake up that there's some nefarious things happening. And we could, if you had us all in a room, we would fill hours, days of stories of people that we know have been positively impacted. So as the foundation for cellular health, I recommend nutritional glycans, and you can trust Manitech. Manitech is the best in the world in that area. I'd also like to add that we're committed to making a difference in the world. So every purchase you make with Manitech nourishes an at-risk child. So it's social entrepreneurial in the best form. So it's not just donating money. It's before profit. So we deliver these nutrients, whether the company's in profit or not. And that's in partnership with each and every consumer, each and every person who shares the gift of Manitech. In summary, the most important thing, if you take one thing, be curious and investigative. It's okay to be a learner and build knowledge. For success, or back to the post-it, if that's where you're at and that's where you're starting, do one post-it note at a time and do the one that's easiest. Join in like-minded wellness groups. I had a PhD message me, a scientist, the other day. He says, I'm concerned my friend is doing too much research and that she might be self-medicating. And that is potentially a risk out there, absolutely. If as citizen wellness researchers, will we make mistakes? Yes. Hopefully it's just natural medicine and you can learn and you can connect with like-minded peers and build knowledge. But there's some amazing things out there that are safe and have been used for centuries and just, I could go as far as say suppressed, but they're just, which we could find out is true, or they're just not made public and we have to find it for ourselves. So it's not the individual so much that's broken in the health system. It's mostly the system. There will be bad actors in a big organization, but mostly our system is broken and it needs a reset. Give yourself permission in the doctor's office to get a second opinion. It's okay to get, go and say, listen, one doctor told me this and I wanted someone to talk it over. You also might research your doctors, right? There's now there's large groups that say, this doctor is very patient collaborative. You can research that first. Learn yes and no to what's right for you. I know that's hard in the doctor's office and you may need to shop for GPs until you get one that's collaborative with you. They are out there and you need to have, sort of a spine of steel to keep going, but and protect your emotional self, but it is possible. Be willing to change doctors. And the very foundation of everything we've talked today is that our health starts at the cell level, and there's no better time to start for a healthier life going forward. So health myths no more. There's no excuse. I will re-record this because of the technical difficulties so that it'll be easier, probably 22 minute thing to share if you find it useful. But that's the point, is that we need to band together. We need to be wellness warriors. We need to help those around us. And it's an invitation. And I hope this to be a quick education piece for people so that they can use it to help people think and be safe to explore things for themselves. Because, it's scared people that are scared to do new things. It's frightened people that make bad health policy. It's frightened people, the government has frightened us into compliance of late, as you know, and they're not bad people. They're good people that are frightened, and education helps with fear. So dive in, learn more, educate yourself, and move forward in the healthiest life possible for you. So once again, I apologize for all the errors, but technically, but I hope this is something that will add value for others.
Fantastic, Sharon. Thank you so much. A lot of accolade in the chat there for you, and
thank you.
Recognition of you as a wellness warrior, and delivering this really vital message to people to be willing to look beyond what's initially presented to them and be discerning and take responsibility for their own education in what it takes for long-term thriving well-being. And it, as you say, it all starts with a healthy cellular structure, and that begins with providing the nutritional building blocks that our body needs to thrive and stay well. So thank you, Sharon, for your time and dedication and contribution to this group. And we'll look forward to the recording, to sharing that, or to one that you do formally.
Yeah, I'll redo it, to upload, but
yeah, it'll be a great resource for the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everybody think it'll be worthwhile. I'll redo it. And anyway, I hope it adds value. I'll use it because it's hard to get that across in a conversation, and you need to just give people time to really reflect and permission to reconsider. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Remember, next week is Dr. Steve Nugent. So
I'll let you know the topic when I know.
Yeah, okay. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
Everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye-bye.